Dr. Rabiu, welcome to our studios. It's nice to have you with us today. So can we meet you, please?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. Fellow Nigerians, brothers and sisters, wherever you are and however you listen, I thank you for this opportunity given to me to serve my country. It's actually a very important call that I had to answer. And I have seen and I have met thousands of you over the last couple of weeks expressing your, kind words and your hope and the energy, the vibrancy I have seen across different groups, creed, interest, religion, tribes on our ticket to be the president and the vice president of this Federal Republic. And have also seen in the nowadays social media people expressing a lot of kind words on Facebook, on Twitter and other platforms regarding this important issue that is here for us and for the country.
What was growing up like for you as a young child?
Very interesting question. I actually raised my two parents, my late father now I hate to say. Actually I grew up in a monogamous setting with 7 other siblings. My father was a theologian. He was a very incredible human being. It's still sad that I say that he's no more 2.5 years ago. So my first teacher happened to be my mother, because from her that I had the first verses of the Holy Quran being recited. Then went to primary school in the more formal settings, the Western education, and then go on to complete my secondary education in Jigawa State, and then BUK, the Bayero University Medical School, and caught up with me. After my graduation, then I started as a young doctor at a specialist hospital in Bauchi, where I worked, and then back to Kano also. There's a busy hospital called Murtala. I also worked there, and then went to Shore's hometown, interestingly, not knowing that I would caught up with him afterwards. So I did my National Youth Service in Akure, the capital of Ondo State, and then afterwards I couldn't stay not gainfully employed. Then I started residency training in public health, or what some people love to say, community medicine. And so I qualified, and then also feel like adding more to myself, and I sponsored myself to study in United Kingdom. So to come back and give the top quality, first class medical training, medical services for my country, Nigeria. So this is why I am, even after I qualified as a consultant in a big place, Minika Nutrition Hospital in Kano. And I went to my home state, Jigawa, to practice in a semi-urban, you could say, but it's a very rural place in Brununkuru. And that's where I find a lot of, reward for impacting positively into patients and doing a lot of community work, advocacy, and then teaching also. This is my father's, my late father's profession, to teach.
The Nigerian Dream, what does it mean to you, the Nigerian Dream?
Well, this country is a very amazing country. It's a country of 180 to 200 million people with lots of resources, human, material resources. We are really endowed by our Creator, and for so long we've been let down in many ways by toxic policies being undertaken by our political elites. And I happen to be one of the children of Nigeria that suffered a great deal of lack of democracy due to the military dictatorship in the 80s and the 90s. And now the dream is to see how we can use this abundant resources we have to project this country to where it should be. And that's why our campaign came with the slogan of "Take It Back." And the idea here is to take this country back to the path of decency, honesty in governance, peace and prosperity. So when you talk about dream, this is what I see Nigeria becoming in the future. And it has to start with us.
So why did you choose to join Mr. Omoyele Sowore and the party AAC?
Well, I want to use this opportunity to congratulate Nigeria, and a lot of people, not only myself, actually are keen into the philosophy of our party, and the presidential candidate, he is quite a very unique individual. He's a rare breed. What I see in him is honesty, decency, integrity. He has done it in the 90s. I saw some of his video clip with Moshood Abiola, late Abiola, actually in activism. And look at the people he has, you know, intermingled with. And then his education is quite enviable as well. He left for more education in the United States and then achieved so much success there. He is now a professor, teaches at university, and then a media entrepreneur of what this generation is about, which is the internet. So he actually brings so much energy and the dream actually to help take this country back to where it should be.
How would your party work together towards achieving the common good for the Nigerian people?
Well, at the moment you realize that there's, to say one can spend hours, maybe certainly even days actually discussing the problem in this country. When the current government came to power, or even when they were campaigning, they came with about some points about security, about corruption. And what I see is actually abysmal performance from them, because the security in the Northeast has not been tackled well. If you see the kind of problems people are in, you know, the government has not addressed the key underlying issues making people get radicalized, which is about social injustices, poverty, illiteracy, ignorance, the deprivation there. So this is actually a call for all of us, not only ANC, but ANC as a party came up with a lot of initiative, a lot of brilliant ideas to solve these kind of problems. That's why we have something we acronym as SPICE, which is about the security we're talking about, which is about power, electricity. For us to really develop, we need lots of electricity in this country. We need energy, and we need to diversify from solar, nuclear, and so on. We need to have infrastructure. I always laugh when I see these government build roads and think that's where infrastructure ends. I'm sure recently you've seen images and footage of farms in many parts of the country, both middle belt and down to the northern part of the country, inundated in waters because of floods. These are lack of dams, lack of actually redredging of our rivers actually, so that we can make use of the water for irrigation and some other things. And then we also need infrastructure in education, transportation. So this is what our party is going to tackle. We also need to have a very robust economy that can meet the challenges of the globalization we see. We need health. This is where I work for most of my adult life. I've been working on corridors of our hospital. The situation of healthcare in this country is nowhere near good. And to even worsen the matter, some of our best trained minds are always on their way outside the shores of this country to practice their skills. So we have not been able to retain them. We have not been able actually to even train more. So diseases are actually happy, and you can name them. I know tuberculosis is one. Nigeria is the capital of cholera, of typhoid fever, and some HIV. So our government is going to put a lot of initiatives in place to tackle all these issues head on.
So let's talk about the security situation in the country now. We see that Boko Haram is out there, the Shiites. If you were the vice president and when you get there, how would you have handled the situation, especially that of the Shiites?
The Shiites?
Yeah.
Wow, Shiites. It's a very interesting. Each time I read about the Middle East and the Arab-Israeli conflict and so on, I say, may we not have the Baghdad we see, and the Mosul and stuff like that. These sectarian issues, I think, are part of our history, and I'm a Muslim, so I know firsthand that when you read the historical perspectives of all this, you know that they've been there for a very long time. But until recently, even in those hot places, these people live in certain peace. But those ideas that are really evil, that are really venomous and poisonous, were imported into this land. You and I would know that in the 80s and 90s, there isn't this spate of violence and killing just because one is Shia or Sunni, and so on. So, to me, there is an opportunity here to inject a lot of fairness, justice into the system, so as to have, you know, people practice what they believe in, what they actually feel is the right methodology for themselves, without breaking the laws of the land, without killing anybody, without insulting anybody. This is a country where we have other religions. Christianity, it's also a great religion we have in this country. And, you know, when you practice justice across every strand of understanding, you go a long way actually calling this. I have seen the heavy-handedness being done at times, and I have seen also the violence and the problems these groups could also cause. So, like I said, it brings a lot of insecurity into the land. So, we have to address the issue of security. There is no point allowing people to commit carnage and then go scot-free. They must be, you know, bring to the process of legal process.
So are you saying the Shiites are the one at fault, or?
Well, you could actually see this from, you know, different angles. It depends on who you approach and actually how kind or how honest he is about the situation. I've had cause, like myself, I have friends that are Shiites. Some of them are working as healthcare professionals like me, but we've been doing very well. Not a single time that we had serious argument about theology that bring about even abusing somebody. I have friends who are Sunni, and if I may tell you this, my brother had children across many backgrounds and sects and understanding, but they have always been very peaceful to him. I don't want to give so much credit to him, but you could go and ask. Actually, my house was a small university where the Sunnis, the Shia, the Tijaniya, the Qadiriya come and study with him. We have only one Quran, so people can study various disciplines and then still live in peace. And I don't think violence has any place, be it in Paris, London, or Madrid, or in Abuja, or anywhere in this country.
So you believe Buhari has not handled this situation well?
Yes, absolutely. Because you can see it each time erupting and killing and the death and the mayhem, it goes on the suffering. And we haven't seen justice being done. We haven't seen actually been people prosecuted in the right way. There are complaints across all quarters that justice have not been done to them. I heard the other time on BBC the our legal team handling Ex-Zaki's case, complaining that there were court orders for him to be bailed and so on, hadn't been done and so on. So one of the tools of democracy, or the tripod that democratic systems sit on, is rule of law. And if there's no rule of law, actually we'll be in jungles. A few days ago, I was at the Quranic recitation competition in my state, and I have seen a lot of, children reciting the Holy Quran from their heart in the most melodious of voice. But when I go on to think and ask of their background, I realize actually they have decent shelter. They have teachers who train, some even in the best of Quranic sciences. They have food to eat. They have cloth as uniforms and so on. But the near 20 million children we see as Al-Majri on our streets, they are ragtag, they are hungry, they are actually being abused, sometimes emotionally, physically, and even sexually. Some of our dignities have been violated by adults and so on. And this is not how Quranic studies should be given in all sense. There are over 6,000 verses in the Holy Quran. You can't actually cram all these and make use of them, and the understanding by being hungry, by being poor, by being lack of no shelter or no teacher actually to walk you through these 114 chapters of the Holy Quran. So definitely it is in the interest of this country to handle this crisis, actually to give them better education.
Nigerian media space is so preoccupied with APC, PDP. How do you hope to break that jinx?
Yeah, I must thank the trust and the love and the hope being expressed by Nigeria. You realize, I was checking recently about the demographic structure of this country. Nigeria has a very large adults, meaning the youth actually. And the two parties have been populated. You could even say PDP, APC are one thing, because they keep, decamping is the culture. When you're uncomfortable with your personal interest and the greed and so on, then you switch the next day. And once perhaps things aren't good there either, you also come back. And this is, to me, these two parties actually need not to be there in the first place, because we are tired of them. We have suffered enormously from their malpractices. So what this party intends to achieve is to harness people, both old and young, male, female, the villagers like me, and the people, urban elites like some of you, to really pull together strength to vote the current government out of office come 2019. And that is what we intend to do. We are going to mobilize across places, in the villages, in farms, in places of worship, on university campuses, in marketplaces, to see that people are brought on board so that we have the largest, actually group to go out with their weapon, which is PVC, to weed this actually malaise and the problems this country is suffering from.
Well, why do you think education has not really succeeded in the North? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a very lucky person. My father tried it in the 1940s. He was one of the Al-Majris, and then went as far as Maiduguri, and then wanted to cross to Chad for Hajj by road, but he lost a guide and he had to retract and come back. But since then, he set his mind on giving us the best education possible. He once told me that, I wish, Rabiu, I could be turned to a slave so that I could sell myself and give you money to go and educate yourself. And that's what he had, achieved. I think I'm, when you compare me to my older siblings, I'm the least educated among them. And this is something that I use on a daily basis. This is what has propelled me into a lot of places. But that is not even where the thing is. I want to see these privileges being spread across all children across the country, both east, west, north, south. So I agree, it's a fact that some part of the northern Nigeria is struggling with issues of illiteracy, ignorance. And then it is one of the key issues we mentioned. You haven't allowed me to talk about the heat part of it, which is about health, education, agriculture, and tourism. So we are going to be a very bold, this country is going to receive actually the best touch in terms of education. If you now go to our campuses, which is the highest level you could say, that there is a kind of balloon wall in between the university, what they are able to produce in terms of research, and the real society and the government. We are going to break such barriers. We are going to use the most standard form of primary, secondary, and tertiary education policy across all the geopolitical zones in this country. And I understand that there is so much immediate need to prop up some of the issues you highlighted in the north, and that is not also going to be left, unchecked. We are going to give a boost to the systems there so that people pick up, And I understand that, this is what the 21st century is about. It's about skills. So we're going to create a kind of Silicon Valley in all the 6 geopolitical zones that we can export talent, to other countries. And then we can actually be self-sufficient in terms of the skill we need in our young men and women.
We hear about corruption. It's more or less like Nigeria's trademark now.
Yes.
So how do you intend to rid the country of corruption?
Well, you see, years now, each time reports actually come, they come with this Nigeria, topping or in some of the most corrupt countries in the world. I remember a statement that was carried by the media, the former British Prime Minister, calling us one of the most fantastically corrupt country. And this is a kind of label and shame Nigerians carry wherever we go. And I don't want my generation actually to go on carrying such for our kids. Most of this corruption was not done by my generation and even the young kids. They were done by the people in the ruling, that have been ruling this country for decades now. So we really have to have ways of addressing that so that we will have a more decent, fairer society. Recently, we found that corruption in itself is the crime, but the thinking behind it, actually, it's even more insane. Where you turn left, right, that you hardly think of even people that are not corrupt, because it's in every part of Nigeria's strata and system and subsystem.
So I saying everybody in Nigeria is corrupt?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is, like, there is even the belief in some of us that Nigerians that everybody is corrupt, that you have to have a price, everybody can be, and so on. But that's not it. There are still lots of
having a price. Does that mean someone is corrupt?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's the thinking that everybody can at some point in time be corrupt. This is the nature, this is the depth, this is the kind of, the problem in itself. So it's not like few people do it and so on, but it has permeated that people still put it inside their back, at the back of their mind, that they would have to be corrupt at some point. So we are going to really reorient the thinking of Nigerians that it's an evil, it's a cancer, we have to get rid of it so that everybody can be brought on board. Do you get that? Because people think corruption is only changing hands in the offices of government and dollars and so on, but corruption is on our campuses, when you trade sex for marks, when you do this in the banking sector, when you do this everywhere. So we are going to put in place mechanisms actually to have a more transparent approach to governance and how we deal with our public lives, so that everybody is being watched, and to even think that, okay, we are going to have a system whereby we will punish corrupt people. No, that's not what we are. We are to prevent it from even taking place in the first place. And if or when it happens, we are not going to leave it, looking at it just because he is a cousin or a brother or we are related in some. No. We are going to bring people to bear the consequences, because it has brought this country to its knees. It has damaged our reputation, our image globally. And as a vice president, we are going to rally day in, day out to see that corruption has no place in our system.
What's your take on the Nigerian entertainment industry?
Nigeria is a big factor in entertainment world, I would say, across the globe. When you meet a Ugandan or a Kenyan, sometimes the first question he asks is not who is the president of your country, but they ask you about one actor or actress in the Nollywood movie or something else. And I caught up with some Senegalese, and they told me how infectious some of our house music actually is, even on their shows. And across West Africa, when you travel, you realize that we have come of age in that direction. But it needs a lot of boost, it needs a lot of look, it needs the sector to be actually reinvigorated so that their influence can be much more. And people just see them as entertainers, as you said, entertainment industry, but they are much more than that. As a public health person, sometimes we employ them to do us jingles, to be role models for some of our health campaigns. And there are big celebrities, they are known all over. So we see them being used actually to inform, to mobilize, to reorient the society, and of course to entertain. I watch movies too, and I can tell you some of the best movies I've watched are not the Hollywood movies. If you want, I can even tell you my best actor in comedy, who is an Igbo person, the name of Nkem O. Yeah.
So you said they should be seen as a tool to reorientate.
Yes.
Fela music went viral worldwide. Do you think Nigerian entertainers will be able to fill in the gap, or they are doing much better in the aspect of bringing out conscious content for their listeners?
Yeah, you mentioned...
That's talking about the musicians.
You mentioned Fela. I met a professor of infectious diseases who was miming Lady, remember? She goes, "Hey, be a lady," the song by Fela, and I was surprised. My mouth was open, hanging, and why did you know? He said, but he used to come here and perform, and we used to love him, and so on. Look at how, he came from the illustrious Kuti family. At a point, a minister, the father of our primary health care, Odikoyi, Ransom Kuti. I met an emeritus professor who was mentored by Odikoyi, Beko, gynecologist as well, and then Fela in between them became an entertainer. And look at how his impact is still being felt. Because it's about what's right. It's about actually people being treated with dignity. It's about the corruption in power, that he sent those messages actually using the drums and the guitar and all that. And you can see he's still been heard, listened, and so on across the globe. And he brought the ingenuity in his voice and the musical instrument that till today he's been a force to reckon with in the music industry. Yeah, so I think it's good that such a fella existed in this country.
So what are your plans for the industry as a whole?
Well, you see that, I grew up in the very time when a lot of mobilization regards to education, access to immunization and immunization services was the in thing. So there was this cinema at night called in Hausa Majigi, when people would gather in front of the traditional heads and being played and so on and so forth. And that tells you, it underpins the power that the media had even then. And now you have better cameras, camera angles, you have better script writers, you have better, stories to tell in terms of the difficulties that this country is facing. So we're going to really redirect their focus actually to entertain, to educate, using all these resources. And of course we've got to regulate them, and they are a source of big revenue actually. So all these will be handled.